You know, we've always believed that there are interesting and inspirational stories to be found in every part of Texas. Now, oftentimes that belief takes us to small towns and remote tracts of wilderness, places that our friends in the news business rarely get to go.
But today that belief is taking us behind bars of the Texas prison system. We're going to meet people who are still serving their time, yet they're working toward a better future for themselves and others.
And we'll tell you all about it if you just hop in and travel with us. I'm Bob Phillips.
And I'm Kelly Phillips, and this is Texas Country Reporter. By the dawn's early light, two inmates raise a symbol of our rich Texas history high over the Hilltop Unit in Gatesville. But these flags aren't the only thing at full staff at this prison. In a workshop surrounded by great bundles of fabric and spools of thread, a group of women are hard at work. Work that Warden Donna Kasmerezak says can lead to a more meaningful life.
Inside the prisons, we have a lot of jobs. We have maintenance jobs, food service, they have educational programs.
Just to keep them busy while they're here, or to prepare them to get back to the outside?
Sir, to prepare them, because at the end of the day, these ladies and all these offenders are going to be released back into our society. So what better way than to be able to give them a ways to make a meaningful living that will keep them from coming back, going back to the life that they led.
And what are they doing here?
They're making flags.
Here in the garment factory, the inmates churn out around 250 U.S. and Texas flags a day. They even produce the 40-foot-long one that flies over the Capitol in Austin, as well as other state-funded agencies, all by working in an assembly line and coming together as a team.
I've never sewn any time prior to this. This is my first time. They sit you down and kind of have one of the other inmates that has already been here and been trained sit with you and teach you the ropes on everything until you kind of get the hang of it. You just kind of learn from there.
If you have the qualifications, if you have a positive attitude, then you end up on the flag line. You can't come in here with a street attitude. You have to become part of that team. It takes pride. You have to be prideful in what you do.
Long gone are the days of inmates crushing rocks and stamping license plates. For women like Priscilla Hernandez and Rebecca Wilson, the garment factory represents a shift, one that's geared toward preparing inmates for life outside these concrete walls. Priscilla, what are you in here for?
I'm in here for murder. Because of the nature of the crime, you can understand people's wariness in hiring you.
The purpose of this program is to give these offenders ways to make a gainful employment so that they can be successful back in society.
Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Well, the women at the Hilltop Unit are doing everything they can to make sure it does. They've all got past that they're not proud of, but together, with every broad stripe and bright star, they're showing pride, not just for their country, but in a future full of possibilities.
It's taught me to sort of branch out, because I never pictured myself sewing anything
Is there a message that you want other people to see about what's being done in here?
People should know that not everything in prison is just, about getting by. There are situations or programs like this where you're improving, and it's pretty cool to think about.
And Kelly, not only is that a good program, but those are some darn good flags those women are making.
Now, coming up next, we'll head to a men's prison outside of Houston, a prison with a higher calling. Stay with us.
It's early morning at the Darrington Unit here in Rosharon, Texas, and as sharp spikes of barbed wire surrounding this complex cut through a light fog, this men's prison awakens.
Texas is one of the largest prison systems in the world. 120 some odd prisons, 155,000 adults incarcerated in the state of Texas. There's just a phenomenal opportunity to see the prison culture change.
Prison culture, even the most law-abiding citizen can picture what that means. Guys playing pickup games in the yard under the shadow of a guard tower, while security guards watch for any sign of trouble. But over in a classroom inside Darrington, a select group of prisoners is studying a new path.
I wanted to give you some words of affection and fondness and some words of encouragement and edification from the Word of God.
Although the room may be simple with only a few posters lining the walls, the conversations taking place here are anything but. Because it's not every day you see criminals, thugs, and gangsters discussing theology.
This is Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary's extension program at the Darrington Unit. It got started 7 years ago, actually a little bit more than that, when a Texas businessman by the name of Grove Norwood was visiting the Angola Penitentiary in Louisiana. That's their maximum security state prison. It was one of the bloodiest prisons in America for a long time. But about 20 years ago, the warden there asked New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary to do a Bible college. They agreed, came in, began training men to be pastors, and they started to see a drop in the violence in the prison, because when you change the heart, you change the behavior.
Benjamin Phillips serves as director of this special program from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. He and other professors commute to Darrington every day to teach and preach the Word of God. But even though these classes are behind bars, there are no get-out-of-jail-free cards here. These students will attend lectures, write essays, and study the Bible for 4.5 years.
Academically, they earn a Bachelor of Science in Biblical Studies. So they're learning to use the Bible to minister to the men around them. And the goal is to see a transformation of character that transforms the prisoner culture inside the prison. But it's hard to change 20 years of enculturation with 2 years of programming. So the men who come to our program are men who are going to be here in the prison system for a long time. In many cases, they're going to be here for the rest of their lives.
To become one of Ben's students, an inmate must be at least 10 years away from a parole hearing. That's because the goal isn't to create more Bible trivia champs, it's to train field ministers for the Texas prison system, who will then share their wisdom and faith with their peers. No one understands the importance of that more than inmate Jason McMahon.
What are you in for, Jason?
Aggravated kidnapping, 2 counts. Kidnapping. 2 life sentences running concurrent, they're not stacked. And I've been down 23 years.
How did you get into the program?
That's God. That's God and his sense of humor. God enjoys taking a very screwed up person that thinks he's got nothing left and building him back up in his image, the original image, and sending him on these missions. My fulfillment in here is to stop just the insanity that's going on inside the prison. And the guys that get a chance to go home, I want them to leave here a better father, better son, better brother, better nephew, whatever it is to their family, and just be a better person. Move that moral line up. A lot of the men we talk with don't ever become Christians when they leave, but their moral line moves just a little bit.
To the cross I look, to the cross I cling.
There is something happening behind the walls at Darrington. You can feel it in the air, see it in the faces of the inmates, and hear it in a song.
Sweetly broken, holy surrender.
The lyrics of that song speak of being sweetly broken, yet wholly surrendered. And who could relate to that message more than a group of inmates who are still trying to atone for their sins? But under lock, they're finding the key to living a better life, and one day they're going to share it behind bars.
The exciting thing about it is that other offenders will listen to them because they've walked the same path, committed the same crimes. And so when somebody like that says, I understand exactly who you are, but let me tell you what God has done in my life, then you can hear it because you can see the difference.
All right, okay, got it.
And that's just the beginning. When we come back, a graduation ceremony marks the beginning of a new mission for these new ministers.
Stay with us. For the inmates in the Darrington extension of the Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, today is a school day like any other. Some write papers and take tests, while down the hall others sing hymns. It's an environment you probably wouldn't expect to find behind bars, but it's one Benjamin Phillips says can be life-changing.
Prison tends to take bad people and make them worse. But prison is also a place where when men know the power of God, share His word, and the men around them can see them live it out, they'll come back to our communities different than they came. That's going to be good for all Texans.
As the director here, he's come face to face with criminals that have done unspeakable things. But he's also seen those very same inmates turn their lives around. Inmates who have decided to do something right with a life spent doing so much wrong. Inmates like Sergai Daigre. What are you in for?
Felony murder. I was 20, I was stupid, and I thought that I could take what I wanted. I figured if I had a gun, I could take by robbery. And so I attempted, and the man decided that he didn't want to be robbed. And it didn't turn out well. I shot him, he died. So I understand what it is to be bad. I understand what it is to be worthless. I earned that. I'm not here because I was a good person. I'm here because I was a bad person. And by all intents and purposes, because I took a life, I deserve to give a life. People come to the penitentiary, and these lives matter in little ways. They matter.
Aren't we all the same? Aren't they just broken when they come in here?
Yes, but perception is different. See, in a broken world, we like to look at other people as worse than we are. And when a man makes an error in judgment, a fault, and he falls on his face, we laugh at him. We don't pick him up.
You took a life.
Exactly. And I deserve to be sent here. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't affect what you think about yourself. That it doesn't make you feel like less of a person. The sad reality of it is, Most of us who come in this penitentiary are depending on other people to define us. And they've defined us as garbage. And sadly enough, we live up to it. So maybe if somebody can help us to see that we are created in God's image and we are gloriously created and made for something wonderful, then maybe we'll act like it. Maybe we'll live that out. Maybe we'll start to perceive ourselves as more than just garbage.
Sergai and his classmates all have past full of bad choices and dark decisions.
Show me your knuckles. What's it say?
Go to hell.
Go to hell?
Go to hell.
Was that your sentiment?
That was my sentiment for most of my life.
Although their crimes won't be forgotten, they are spreading forgiveness here at the Darrington Unit. But that message would be nothing if it stopped here. So after 4.5 long years, if a student successfully completes the program, he graduates and moves on to become what's known as a field minister.
Field ministers are ministers that are here in the prison. So now the wardens have allowed us to go back to high security, and I go cell to cell and talk to the men back there, and I try to bring church to them since they can't come to church. I try to let them know you don't have to be tied down to a bad decision for the rest of your life.
Field Minister Troup was one of the first graduates of the program and is an example of how a life behind bars can lead to enlightenment.
Sergai Daigre.
But new graduates are starting to spread that message beyond the walls of the Darrington Unit. Graduating classes are given a diploma, then deployed to other prisons. It's the culmination of the inmates' hard work. But according to soon-to-be graduates, Sergai and Jason McMahon, it's what happens after they graduate that will be the real test.
When I first entered the program, one of our inmate pastors said that if I was only here for a piece of paper, that's all I was going to leave with. None of the men in this penitentiary is going to care. They're going to want to see my actions, see me as a role model, and that's what's going to move them when I bring the gospel to them.
The last 4 years has been all about the way that God is shaping me to serve. I came here for something. I came here with an intent and a purpose. And I came here because this is where God wanted me. And after this, I will go where He sends me, and I will do what He's got for me to do there. Minister and feed into the lives of men so that they may see the love of Christ, so that they may know there's something better. I just have to be consistent in how I live. Because words mean nothing, but the way you live means everything to men who don't believe half of what you say. So, a living testimony.
As another class of graduates receive their diplomas, this chapter of their lives is coming to a close. They are all criminals, and none of them are getting out anytime soon. But behind these bars, they chose a different path and are now setting out to make a change in prisons across the state, where they'll be an example to inmates that, although they'll always have the scars of their past, that doesn't have to define their future.
I want to go back like I was before. I want to go back and talk to the gang members. I want to talk to the guys that are in SEG. I want to be a presence in their life so that they can show them that that door does open eventually.
I've spent so much time in this penitentiary that I know the penitentiary. But if you get caught up in the penitentiary, you forget about the real world. And you forget that out there are people who care, and there are people who want things to be better. And there are people who are willing to support you if you're willing to do what's right and try to help make things better. It's eye-opening, it's life-changing. You can't go through it without being changed.